Hey, what's going on? It's Stokely from Sauce on Delay. Let me try to project my voice over my poorly installed muffler. Well, I was messing with the car and created some issues. But anyhow, so what I want to talk about today is cooking temperatures. This is something that I should have spoke about before. I did mention it when I talked about different cooking oils and how they have different smoke points, and if you use I hope I mentioned that it's best to cook food under 300 degrees. But so what happened yesterday, I went to the supermarket and I bought some molasses. And I know molasses has a lot of micronutrients like selenium, magnesium, other stuff like that. A lot of good micronutrients in it, molasses, right? So I made some tea. Typically I don't sweeten my tea, but I would like to. So what happened was I used the molasses to sweeten my tea. Well, before I used the molasses to sweeten my tea, I looked at the label and it has all kind of good stuff: USDA organic, fair trade, non-GMO, all these different stickers on it. But I turned around the back of the bottle and it says, and there's a Prop 65 warning. Why does it have a Prop 65 warning? So the label says it contains, it has a potential to expose consumers to acrylamide, right? Acrylamide. Hopefully I'll spell it right in the description. Okay, so acrylamide is what makes carbs brown when you cook them or bake them or fry them or roast them or whatever you do with the carbs. When you make them brown, acrylamide is present. It gives it also that it gives you that special flavor too. It gives it a little bit of flavor also. Okay, so acrylamide occurs in carbs when you cook them above 248 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's call it 240, right? Now that's just a little bit above the boiling point of water. The boiling point of water is 212. So anyhow, so acrylamide, it's no good for you. And it's, I don't recall exactly why it's not good for you, but it's not good for you. Oh, it could cause cancer. That's what Prop 65 is all about. Thank California for Prop 65. Now, recently, California, according to people on Instagram, I haven't looked it up myself, has declared coffee deserving of a Prop 65 warning. Why is coffee deserving of a Prop 65 warning label? Why? Because coffee beans are roasted. And when you roast the coffee beans, you also introduce acrylamide. Right? When you cook, when you use oils beyond their smoke point, they start to burn, and that introduces also unhealthy chemicals. I really wanted to be a little more structured. I had everything written down on paper for the most part, but not in chronological order. So let me do a search right now and see if I can let me see. I'm just see if I can type it. Prop 65 coffee. Right? So search. Let's do it on the fly. It says Prop 65 coffee refers to the legal requirement in California for warnings about chemicals in coffee, specifically acrylamide, which forms during roasting. However, 2019 California's OEHHA officially exempted coffee from these warnings, including that the small amounts formed don't pose significant cancer risk. Okay, so at one time it was, but then in 2019 they took it down. But there's guys on social media saying that it's back up, but I guess that's not the case. But at some point, the acrylamide formed in coffee was a problem, and then they took it down. So when you're cooking carbs and stuff, or even baking them over 248 degrees Fahrenheit, introduce this acrylamide. That's just about everything that we're eating nowadays, whether it's fried chicken, whether it's pancakes, whether it's biscuits, whether it's cakes, whether it's anything with flour or whatever the case may be in it. And we're browning these things, we're frying these things, we're baking them. These things are what's going on here? What's going on? Hold on. Yeah, these things are getting loaded up with a potential carcinogen. Now, the world or the corporations, even AI is going to tell you that it's not a big deal. It's nothing to worry about. And I haven't found out whether it bioaccumulates, but that's enough freestyling now. Let me look back at my paper, okay? So I'm going to give different foods and what safe temperatures they can be cooked at, and what maybe one of the toxins that's introduced when you cook it above that certain temperature, okay? So meat, the upper limit for meat is 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you cook meat above 300 degrees Fahrenheit, you introduce PAHs and HCAs. So one of the toxins is PAH, or there are multiple toxins called PAHs, and multiple toxins called HCAs above 300 degrees, okay? That's meat. Carbs, 248 degrees. And that introduces acrylamide. Oils, okay? Well, it also depends on the oil's smoke point, okay? But oils, on average, is about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And that introduces chemicals that can cause oxidative stress. Oxidative stress can damage your DNA, and damaged DNA can lead to cancer, okay? Sugar, 320 degrees Fahrenheit. You shouldn't cook sugary things preferably over 320 degrees Fahrenheit. And that introduces toxins called AEGs, fats. And that's, there's fat in meat, and that includes oils also. 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Like I said, the same thing with oils. You cook in fats above 350 degrees, you're potentially increasing the concentration of chemicals that cause oxidative stress. Oxidative stress, oxidizing, things that are oxidizing agents, I guess, that steal the electrons from your oxygen molecules, that steal it, we're carbon-based life forms that, contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. These things that cause oxidative stress are stealing the electrons from our oxygen cells, from our oxygen molecules, and increasing the probability of things going haywire and potentially damaging our DNA, okay? Vegetables, 248 degrees Fahrenheit. So carbs and vegetables fall into the same category regarding temperature. Got that information from Microsoft Copilot, and yeah. So overall, just talking about acrylamide, that's the one that kind of got me into the whole thing. And heat-driven browning creates toxic Maillard byproducts. Now, Maillard must be some kind of scientist name, right? And it's a Maillard byproducts. Maillard byproducts, not totally sure what that means. But you can look that up, right? So you really want to cook your food at the lowest temperatures as possible, okay? You want to cook your food at the lowest temperatures as possible. So what can we do? You know, because let's not just talk about the problems, let's talk about solutions. So what was the lowest temperature? Okay, meats is 300, carbs 248, oils 350, sugar 320, fats 350, and vegetables 248. So around 300 degrees sounds like a good safe number. And supposedly bacteria is killed above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's one of the things about our food. We want it to be broken down enough so that we can digest it, and we want to also kill the bad bacteria and the pathogens that could be potentially in the food, right? So we want to cook at least, at minimum, at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not even cooking. That's not even boiling. That's not even, I don't know. You know, that's like the hot water coming out of your hot water heater is about 120. In New York City, it's maximum limited at 140 degrees, and it'll still burn you at 140 degrees. So, what solutions are there? Now, they have slow cookers. I didn't look into slow cookers, but I looked into crockpots. So a crockpot cooks food over a long period of time. It's basically a slow cooker. A crockpot cooks between 160 degrees and 190 degrees, somewhere around that, right? Between 160 degrees Fahrenheit and 190 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're way below the 300, we're way below the 248. I'm sorry, 248. We're way below the 248. So we're not going to damage the vegetables. We're not going to damage the carbohydrates. What's wrong with you? This guy honking me and he's not even in my lane. You're not even nowhere near me. His girlfriend is in the car, so he got to impress her, and he feels, you know, it could be a confrontation. You know what I'm saying? You got to try to look some kind of way. But whatever, let's get back to sanity, okay? So a crockpot cooks between 160 and 190 degrees. Yo, he's even driving the car with one hand like he's cool, like leaning forward. And anyway, man, it's the psychology of it. I've done it. I'm guilty of it, so I can identify it. Crockpots came around in 1940s, right? And from what I'm getting from AI, it says crockpots helped women prepare and cook dinner in the morning to have it later in the evening because they started working. Women were working more, so they couldn't be there, all day like preparing a meal. Throw all the stuff, throw all the ingredients in the crock pot, set it in the morning. By the time you come in the evening, everything is all simmered down, all the flavors mixed in, and it's all cooked, right? And what are the typical meals that were made in a crock pot? Those are pot roast, soup, stew, beans, meatballs, and hot appetizers / dips. Oh well, you know what? He should have humped me because I was driving kind of slow. But because I'm reading, right, which is dangerous. Forgive me. The traffic actually wasn't moving, so I wasn't really holding up traffic. So another thing that is pretty useful in preparing meals at a safe temperature is a rice cooker. A rice cooker cooks between 170 degrees and 212 degrees. And the rice cooker will never go above 212, supposedly, because it has a temperature sensor in it. And when it exceeds 212, it shuts off, because that's when it detects that all of the water has evaporated, because water is not going to stay in a liquid state past 212 unless you have it, compressed. Okay, so the rice cooker is not a compression type cooker. It's not going to cook above that temperature. Now, a pressure cooker will cook above 212 with water, and that allows it to cook very fast because you're cooking at a higher temperature, at a higher pressure, and it breaks apart the meats It makes the meat all soft and yada yada yada. But that's not something you can just turn on and leave it on and don't worry about it for the rest of the day. That's a crock pot or a rice cooker. So, you know, if you want to make some food and you don't want to have to sit there all day long preparing it or whatever, and you want to have something to eat for dinner time when you come home, and you don't want to have to come home and then start cooking and start making food and all that while you're making your breakfast to leave the house. You just throw all the flavors and all the spices and all the meats in the crock pot. Probably could have throw it in there even if it's frozen, and just set it and forget it. And by the time you come home, you throw it on the plate and you eat it. Wonderful, right? So what else do I have here? So what are some good ways to prepare food? And this is now, you know, we've learned that Eastern cultures seem to have healthier practices regarding culinary, I don't know, hygiene, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, behaviors, whatever. And one thing that's used a lot in the East, places like Vietnam, Philippines, Japan, China, is steaming. And, well, I don't think steaming is a very fast way to cook anyway, you know. I don't really like steamed food myself, but you might like it. So, what you can steam, or foods that are typically steamed, are fish, chicken, couscous, which is, I think, some kind of rice or something, broccoli, carrots, asparagus, leafy greens, potatoes, and dumplings. Now, dumplings, you know, most of us have had dumplings, and those are pretty nice. And it's like an empanada without the acrylamide. You know what I mean? It's just like an empanada without all the acrylamide. That makes it all nice and crunchy and brown and golden brown. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we don't want all that acrylamide in our body. And we're doing it every day because, I don't know. I mean, look at chicken nuggets, right? The study that they did on something like 26,000 nurses about eating ultra-processed foods. One of the foods that was mentioned in that nurse's study was nuggets. And you know, nuggets are breaded. And the bread, or the breadcrumbs, are golden brown. So then you got a lot of acrylamide in that situation. Okay, so you want to cook your food at the lowest temperature as possible. So that's really all I have to say. Maybe you want to invest in a crock pot. Might help you. Matter of fact, it'll help you in so many ways, because after you leave work, you don't got to stop to get food, or you don't have to come home and start preparing a meal. You set the crock pot, set the food in the crock pot, and you know, it may not be what you're traditionally used to eating, but what do we want to do? We want to live long. We want to be healthy. We want to feel good. You know, it might taste good too. It just may not have the traditional presentation that you're used to of golden brown things that are marketed to us by Kentucky Fried Chicken, PAHs, all of these other places. You know what I mean? So, you know, it doesn't look like the standard American diet type of food, but, you know, as a lot of influencers and people online are telling you, the standard American diet is supposed to put you in a standard American hospital. And standard American diet, the acronym is SAD, SAD. So, you know, maybe we want to start steaming our food, maybe we want to start boiling our food, and that's best. But let me just close by saying that boiling and steaming are the best ways to cook. Baking and frying, not so good. Grilling, barbecuing, and roasting, not so good either. Grilling, barbecue, and roasting occurs at a temperature above 400 degrees. Baking and frying is above like 300 degrees, right? And you know, yeah, when it comes to carbs, you don't want to cook them above 248. When it comes to meats, oils, sugars, fats, you will average about 315 degrees or so, right? So if you want to go ahead and put some stuff in the air fryer, don't put it above probably 315 degrees, 300 degrees. Put it in your air fryer and set it to 300 degrees. You should be okay. You should be a little better than, you know, better than usual. or if you're baking a cake or whatever, just let it sit in there longer, but just cook it at 300. And you'll probably try to, you'll still have the acrylamide, which occurs at 248, but you'll avoid the PAHs, the HCAs. I'm sorry, no, those still occur. That's for me. So you'll still avoid the AEGs, which occur in sugars at 320. You'll avoid the oxidative stress that occurs in the oils at 350 degrees. Right? And yeah. So if you're baking, putting something in the oven, about 350 degrees is okay. If you're cooking vegetables, vegetables have to be really kept close to the boiling point of water. But who really fries vegetables? I mean, we do, but it's not really the best idea to do that. Still, even if you're baking a cake, that cake is going to be baked at 300 degrees. It's still past 248 degrees at which acrylamides occur. So I'm all over the place, but this is what it comes down to. Let me just summarize again, because I was all over the place, right? Starting from the lowest temperature. Vegetables and carbs shouldn't be cooked over 248 degrees. So you should probably steam or boil your carbs. Fats and oils. I mean, we don't eat those things separately. Those are usually just things that we use to prepare other things. So the fats and the oils, they're safe up to 350 degrees. So you can use the fats and the oils with your vegetables and prepare the vegetables and the carbs and the oils at about 248, and you'll be good. Meats, we eat that, we'll prepare that separately sometime. Meat is safe up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Right? So you can put it in the oven and bake it. You can bake your chicken or bake your beef or whatever the case may be. Keep it at 300, but like pan searing it, it's going to exceed 300 degrees. Barbecuing it is going to exceed 300 degrees. Grilling it is going to exceed 300 degrees. So you got to keep it towards maybe the baking and the boiling part area of temperature. Now, I don't know how you control the temperature on a range or on a stove, on a stovetop or a range, unless you have an electric range or stovetop that has a temperature setting on it. So that's a little difficult. So an air fryer has a temperature control. A crock pot, you know the temperature that it's going to be cooking at. So, we just got to be careful and try to use the lowest setting when we're doing things with the stovetop or the range. We try to use the lowest temperature as possible. So that's all I really have to say. Best way to cook, again, is boiling and steaming. Yeah, and that's it. Thanks for listening.